One of the reasons I wrote this book was because I wanted people to understand that life's a pitch, right? Everybody says something else. I'm not sure what I can say, but it really is a pitch. And you need to keep putting yourself out there more for what you want. You will get rejected, but you've got to keep going. And if you try doing anything that you want 100 times, you'll be 100 times better when you're done.
I think mastering the art of rejection is something we should teach. Margot Black's newest book, Life's a Pitch, is a roadmap for all of us. From her years as a publicist, she has seen it all. In this podcast, she shares the secrets of success in life and in business. After all, it's about getting up to the plate, taking that swing, and eventually connecting for a home run. Margot talks about the factors it takes for all of us to become champions. Margot, welcome to Bump in the Road. If you would, tell us your story.
Hi, Pat. Thank you so much for having me here. I am a person that is just obsessed with words and their creative powers. I've loved words forever, and I just always like to see what we can create with them and how I can help make people shine their very best. And because of that, I just wrote a new book called Life's a Pitch, and it's really dedicated to helping people understand how to shine their brightest and fail their way forward.
Fail your way forward. Boy, that's life, isn't it?
It truly is. And I think it's really highlighted in the name of your show, which is Bump in the Road Podcast. Because if you don't have a bump in the road, you're basically not living life.
I was out at dinner one night and there was a couple with me, and I asked them what their biggest bump had been. Silence. And
Are
she
you
thought
serious?
for just a little, she said, I don't think we've ever really had a big bump. And I'm like, oh my God. And they were in their 60s. I mean, these are not, 20-year-olds or anything who would probably have many more bumps in their mind. But I was stunned. How can anybody get through life without, facing some adversity?
I think the only way you can get through life without facing some adversity is not sticking yourself out there.
Oh, that's so true.
I mean, there's no other way. So you can play it safe, but really and truly and ironically, playing it safe is the least safe thing you could ever do if you want to experience all the miracles of life.
I totally agree. But why is it the least safe thing you can do?
Because you're just going to be sitting in a spot, maybe your home or your community, and you're going to choose the path of least conflict all the time. And that's not how life works. Even nature, if you look at it, has fire, wind, hail, rain. There's conflict all the time. And so to sit in a place where nobody's going to challenge you and you're not going to challenge anybody else, it's fine. But there's a whole world of flavors out there. Okay, maybe you want to choose vanilla all the time, but I encourage you to try a couple other things in the buffet of life,
I would argue that the magic of life is outside your comfort zone. And the
without a
more you
doubt.
can get comfortable out with discomfort, the more
Mhm,
magical your life is.
mhm, for sure. And I think I wrote this book because I'm a publicist and a writer, and I've had a marketing company for many, many years. And so many people get uncomfortable the moment they're shining or in a spotlight or asking for attention for something and it doesn't go exactly their way. But none of life goes exactly your way, none of it. And I think that inner antagonism that so many people feel like, I must be perfect, I must be perfect, this must be perfect. Nothing's perfect. And there's always going to be a bump in the road. So
I think
have
actually
at it.
rolling with the imperfection and having some fun with it is much more binding with your audience than trying to be the perfect person.
And it's also much more human,
Yes.
right? Much more
Yes.
human. So, I'm sitting someplace and I told you, like, I was shocked because, of course, today is the day my neighbor's drilling with the loudest amount of noise, right? I hadn't had done an interview for 2 weeks, but of course, today, the moment I start, drilling starts. That's life. 10 years ago, I probably would have been super freaked out. But now, and I process just as we all do, like through writing a lot. That is life. That is the beautiful, strange, wacko way that it just keeps happening. And so there's always a bump in the road. And I think it's very much a part of your book, your work, and my work to say, please don't let that bump stop you.
Well, that I think it's finding, meaning in the bump, whatever that is for you. But I think it's realizing that you can do difficult things.
Mhm. And there's a lot of difficult things to do. And if you
And the
don't really focus on that you can do it, you're going to stay again on the path of vanilla. And what I think most people are really after in life. Now, I know that people look like, "Oh, I want a Maserati or I want perfect abs and that will solve my life." But what I think really people want is they want more possibilities and more opportunities for what they truly want in life. And that comes, the only way it comes is from putting yourself out there and getting in the ring.
I'm gonna botch this quote totally. I don't remember it exactly, but Joseph Campbell has a great quote about this. Help me if you know it better than I do.
Mhm.
But he essentially, points out that, what people want is not to what people want is the experience of being alive. That
Oh,
intense experience of being present, of being there, of making
oh,
decisions, of forming your path, that's what people really seek.
I know that we share a love of travel. That's what I feel all the time when I travel. I believe that completely. To add to Joseph Campbell, because I'm at the heart, even at Blacking PR, I say we are writer driven and we're story driven. What I
Mhm.
really think people want, in addition to that, to feel alive, I think they want to feel that they get to be the hero of their own story.
But I think we are the hero. It's a matter of how we tell the story.
Yes, but people don't know how to position themselves as a hero. What happens is most of the time they position themselves unknowingly and unwittingly, quite often, as the victim. This
Yes.
happened to me, that happened to me. I can't do this because of that. And really, what we all want is to be, we all have dragons to conquer. The question is, how do we get past the dragon? And you're never not gonna have a dragon for whatever you want. There is nothing in life that ever somebody comes to you and says, "Here, have everything you want on a silver tray." It's non-existent. It doesn't even happen in fairy tales, right? Cinderella has her challenges, Rapunzel has her challenges, everybody has their challenges. Shrek has his challenges, but to think that you're gonna get out without some challenges is, in this day and age, delulu.
Well, and I would say our dragons are primarily internal.
Yes, they are, but you're going to have them outside on the road also.
Mhm.
Um, one of the reasons I wrote this book was because I wanted people to understand that life's a pitch, right? Everybody says something else. I'm not sure what I can say, but it really is a pitch. And you need to keep putting yourself out there more for what you want. You will get rejected, but you've got to keep going. And if you try doing anything that you want 100 times, you'll be 100 times better when you're done.
I think mastering the art of rejection is something we should teach.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Y
Because it's
y
just a part of life.
it is, and I think that to some extent, it's a numbers game. The more you put yourself out there, the more
Mhm,
you will win.
mhm.
The key is, and sometimes this is hard because it can emotionally really slam you, but how do you take rejection that does slam you and turn it into something that you can use for your benefit?
There you go. And we all get it, right? Nobody's getting out without it, but you can't let it stop you. You can feel it. You can go eat some cookies. You can do whatever you want, but you got to get back on your feet the same way somebody would say to you when you're like 3 years old, 5 years old, trying to learn how to ride a bicycle, just get back on the bike. It's the same thing. And I really wanted people to know, um, you know, one of the ways to win what you want, whether it's in business or in life, is to fail your way forward with action.
You know, what is it about some people that they manage to navigate these bumps, these rejections and things so much more easily than others?
I think it's the level that they take in the feeling of I was rejected. Some people can use it for ammunition, and
Mhm.
some people use it for like just as a deterrent. They feel so wounded. But almost everything is not even about you. The older you get, you realize it's the other person, it's the circumstance. But also, When people back themselves into a corner with too few choices, the rejection feels bigger and bigger. And that is something I really wanted to encourage readers in my book is to understand the higher your numbers for whatever it is that you want, the more possibilities you have to get it.
And we back ourselves into our own corners because there are always multiple possibilities. It's
Yes.
just I was looking through my email the other day and I felt like it was kind of in I was in Groundhog's Day. I'm seeing the same things, the same stuff all the time. And I just kind of gave myself a kick in the butt and I thought, well, open your world a little bit. This isn't rocket science. There's a
Yes.
lot out there, you know?
Yes. And it's so simple, Pat. Well, you just said, well, open your world a little bit. Literally, that is it all the time. We all get stuck like that. Everybody. There's not anybody who doesn't. But I can tell you from having worked with CEOs from millionaires and billionaires and corporations and global corporations, the key to getting what you want is to upping your numbers all the time. And here's the thing, I really believe what people want when they say they want power is power over their own lives. And true power comes from having choices. And choices comes from going out there and pitching. Just give a pitch for whatever you want. Doesn't matter if it's a date or if it's a job or a situation, you've got to pitch.
Well, and just the simple act of being out there can change all your possibilities.
All,
You may
all.
meet somebody, you may have a conversation, you may see something, you may
Mhm,
experience something,
mhm.
and all of a sudden your world just opens.
Mhm. And can I tell you one of the biggest things I'd love everyone to know about
Yeah.
this? The best thing you can do, because I truly do believe life's a pitch. You can really have just about whatever it is you want if you're willing to go out there and fail in public to get it. And
That is
that's what most people fear more than being naked, like, on a stage.
that, is a really important point. I always go back to the Buddhist concept of beginner's mind, and I try to bring it to whatever I'm doing, even if I have some skill in the area. If you can go in with that kind of wide-eyed openness of being a beginner at any stage, I failing all of a sudden isn't cataclysmic.
Mhm.
It's part of the process.
I understand that beginner's mind too, and I'd also like to say that there's the part of mastery, and I also really love Robert Greene's book, Mastery, and that
Mhm.
book taught me sometimes it's just about the thankless reps.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the more you do anything, the better you get at it, you build muscle memory,
Mhm,
but it's work. It
mhm.
doesn't magically happen.
It really is. Can I give people a couple of tips as to how to get
Please.
a few more things these days? All right. So in this book, I really broke down people fear a lot failing with visibility, right? They'll put themselves out there. Maybe they'll say, like, oh, I did 10 LinkedIn posts and I got nothing, or I went on 3 dates and it sucked. The key to getting what you want these days is understanding how people make decisions nowadays. And so I broke it into a couple of different lanes. And the first thing people need to understand is visual, right? We are a visual society
Mhm.
these days. So you have to kind of figure out what are you visually saying? Right now we're visual, right? I'm showing my book, you're showing your bump in the road. This is the visual presentation. I'm wearing my book colors. There are things
My
you have to
scarf,
understand.
my brand colors.
Right. So the first thing people have to understand is the visuals, then the values. The world is busy. We want to connect with like minded values. So just tell people right up front what you stand for. Are you about being fit? Are you about cooking 100 meals for under $100, or like a party 100 parties for under $100? Just let me know. That's what taglines do. That's what very brief things do. When I talk about my book, I'm telling you that I want to help you win. I help people shine. That's the value part of it. And then the verbal, what are we going to say about each other? And that has to get into a tight little, 3-line nugget so we understand what the words are. So when you get your visuals, your value, and your verbal lined up in a way we understand that it makes sense, then you can turn up the visibility to win what you want. but most people are confusing other people with one of those lanes. So when they turn up the visibility, it doesn't work and they're frustrated and they don't know why. And I will tell you this from all the work I've ever done across the world, Pat, a confused mind never buys.
That's so true. There's an old adage, "A confused mind says no."
I've never heard that. There you go. A confused mind says no.
Yeah. But, it's much easier, I think, for somebody in your position with your experience
Mhm.
to pull that information out of somebody. Being on the other side of it, it's very hard to represent that for yourself.
Oh, it's very hard. And I tell this to other people because a lot of people come to me that have, they've run companies, they're major CEOs and they have their book and they can't figure out what to do. And I'm like, Don't worry. It's easier when somebody else does it for you. However, I do believe, myself included, right? Here I am with you. It is hard, but you need to at least put your own foot forward for yourself. And
And you'll
it's
come
not
up with
easy.
iterations. If you don't get it the first time, you'll tweak it, you'll try something else. The more you put out there, the closer you get to where you
Yes.
should be.
Yeah, and you get a little bit easier at it the more you do it. It becomes a muscle to build just like anything else, but it's really important to count yourself as one of your fans.
Well, and I think perfection is our enemy. And
Oh,
we're always
uh,
aiming for perfection, which doesn't exist and really only sets us up for failure.
totally. And I wrote a different book, but I will tell you this. I've worked in media for years and years, and I think one of the things we're doing really, unfortunately, to our culture and our kids. And one of the reasons I think so many people say, "Oh, I'm so depressed," is because we are feeding our world a steady diet of make believe. Very few
Absolutely.
people, have $100,000 kitchens. Very few people have Maseratis or six-pack abs. Very few people. But if we were scrolling Instagram all the time and saw people in their 10-year-old kitchens with their 10-year-old appliances or their baskets of unfinished laundry instead of their immaculate laundry room, we would all feel a lot better and a lot more connected to the truth of the human spirit, not the make believe.
No, and I think people are really seeking that connection. And they don't know how to go about finding it. And one place to find it is in the imperfect.
In the imperfect, but it's very hard because it's not what we ever sell.
Well, and it's not what we're supposed to present when we're out in
Right.
society either.
Right, but it's ironically what both of us write about, right?
Yeah, oh,
You write about
absolutely.
the imperfections, and I'm writing about, like, let me help you move forward in a calculated way to help you get what you want, even when you don't feel perfect.
I have a few decades on me now, and more than a few, and I think that imperfection is far more fun, far more lovable, and far more full of possibility
That's a
than
beautiful thought because I really write about the possibility that people want. What they want are possibilities for what they
yeah.
want, and it is imperfect. I'm gonna cough, sorry. On camera, imperfect. Um, but I think that's a far richer life, but we don't see it in our media often, and when we do see it well represented in all the dramas and everything, we love it, right? Don't we love an underdog hero that goes above all odds? We love that, but do we show it when we're scrolling? Do we show it in magazines? Never.
That's a really good observation and
Mhm,
totally true. I always call it the Instagram perfect world,
mhm.
which, is just dull and boring. I'll say one of my favorite Instagram accounts, though, is a nature-oriented account, and that one I never find boring because it's just so beautiful and magnificent.
I'm a huge fan of nature too, and I think you fly planes and I write about nature a lot on the side. But if you look at nature, nature has some intense chaos within
Oh,
it.
yes, and intense imperfection too. You'll
It's
see weeds
intense,
next to the flowers.
right. And so I think just to really move through those bumps, you gotta have some empathy and sympathy for yourself. You gotta be kind to yourself, but you really have to understand, just keep moving forward. And one of the, lessons that I really love in this book is, the most important way for anyone to move forward is imperfect action. You cannot learn to drive a car, you cannot learn to drive a car in a parked street. You cannot learn to sail a boat at the dock. You've really got to move into action, and you cannot learn to swim in a classroom. You've got to move into action, and you're going to learn more in action than you will anyway standing still.
I think I think all learning ultimately is I'll say all wisdom, which
Mhm.
comes from learning, is experiential. You can't
I
read it.
agree. I
Yeah, you
totally
you
agree.
can't study it. You have to actually do it.
Mhm. I agree, and I think some of the times that in my career, I have had people be very angry at me, like, a CEO who gets off a television show and she's like, "Oh my god, my bra strap was showing," and she's just rageful. It pops out in the middle of the segment, like, that sort of stuff and rage for the imperfections is what also makes people not wanna work with you or be with you anymore.
That's a little scary, actually.
Well, it is. I mean, I've had people nitpick at things that are like they're their own worst enemy. Like you've got a major article, but you're nitpicking about a comma or something or a missing word when you didn't have it before. So I have seen that sort of nitpicking and constant criticism is other people's way of falsely believing they're maintaining control while the search situation is not within their control.
No, and it would indicate to me that they're a little high strung and that control is truly an illusion.
Totally, totally. It's an illusion. It completely makes no sense, but that doesn't make them feel like they've got to dig in to some sort of nitpicky circumstance where they feel in control.
What are some of your favorite clients you've worked with? No names necessarily, but stories.
My favorite clients, I will say this. At this stage, my favorite clients are the ones who either have gone to some therapy or gotten some business coaching. My absolute favorite clients are the people who are committed to reaching goals, trying new things, understanding that some things will work, some things won't work. We're going to learn, we're going to tweak, and just do it with a sense of joy. That's my favorite circumstance to be in all the time.
I think a sense of joy is the key
Mhm,
piece,
mhm.
and that's something, missing in perfection is
Yes.
joy.
Mhm. Yeah, and there are lots of people that I've seen get really excited as you launch a promotion or, just enjoying the process of how we're gonna figure this out, and then there's always technical challenges, there are always things that don't go right, you always learn things from the data, the audience will always teach you, but just knowing that in the action of doing it, you're going to learn everything you need to know.
For where you are at that point in time.
Mhm, mhm.
But my daily mantra is, "What can I learn?"
That's sweet. I did see the Martha Stewart documentary,
No, I
that was
haven't
on there.
seen that yet.
It's wonderful. I highly recommend it for women. You really wanna see it. It's astounding. A and that brings me to a different point, but she wants to learn something every day. I also think that women are raised to be perfect or to try. All the princess stories show us a
People
form of
pleasing.
perfection.
Mhm.
You come out, you're so beautiful, birds will sing. Like, and most little girls realize somewhere very young, oh, I'm not that pretty. I'm not that perfect. And I think the curse of perfectionism is largely given to women. I will say this. You asked me earlier about clients. One of the biggest things I've ever learned in my entire career is this: don't take yourself out. Don't choose you to take yourself out on your own will. The whole world will take you out. The whole world will say no to you at some point, but don't be the first to cut yourself out. Give yourself a chance in the ring. And here's why. I've seen so many male CEOs that I've worked with be 60 or 70% ready to do whatever they're going to do. And they're like, yeah, yeah, let's go. Let's go. I got it. I'll figure it out. But I have seen female executives, insanely capable women, be 90 to 100% ready and be like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think I'll wait. No, no, no. Do not ever be the first to take yourself out of the game.
I think that's an incredibly important piece of advice, and you're absolutely right. Women do tend to do that, and I think part of the pressure is I know when I got out of school, I was always the only woman in the room, and certainly flying, I was always the only woman with a hot plane and that kind of thing. And you're absolutely right. I think that we push ourselves harder than
Oh,
our male equivalents.
I think society does it to women. And so women say no to themselves so often. There's such a critical voice in their heads that you've just got to quiet that little critic down and move forward.
It's so funny you bring that up. Carolyn Jensen was on recently. She flew with the Thunderbird. She has hundreds and hundreds of hours in combat, right, with F
Mhm.
16s. A truly remarkable woman and a pilot. And she tells a story of how she almost failed as an instructor. She almost failed one of the men in her class because his landings were downright unsafe. And yet later that day, he was bragging that he was the most wonderful person on the planet, in a get together. And the disconnect between actual performance and his perception, or what he wanted people to perceive as his performance, is
Mhm.
astonishing. And I
Yes.
think that goes to what you're saying.
Yes, and I would say this, I mean, when I say, and I mean it really seriously, if there's a woman out there listening, the best thing I could tell you is don't say no to yourself first. I have seen tons of brilliant women say no to themselves first and take themselves out of the game. In my history of work, I've never seen a man say, "Oh, I can't do it. I'm not qualified." Ever. They just get in the ring and fight it out.
So that's what women shouldn't do. What should we do? Say
I
yes.
think women need to understand when I tell you the lanes, like the visuals, the values, the verbal, and then turn up the visibility, understand where the messages go, prepare yourself, and then just let it fly. Just let it fly. I understand. I will say I'm not saying don't be prepared, and I'm not
Mhm.
saying don't prepare. Do a fantastic job. Preparation is the key to everything that you want to do. But then after you prepare as much as you possibly can, move into action. Oh, and really importantly, and this goes especially for women, do not stall the action because you're still trying to prepare, right? We could procrastinate in preparation forever, but you've got to move into action. That's where you're going to get everything you want and all the learning and all the possibilities and all the opportunities. But the price of that is you've got to understand you might fail in public, but go forth unafraid. Do it.